I think it is a lot easier to dial down ego when you actually have mastery than it is when you're trying to get somewhere. You sort of need the ego out front to sort of drive you there, right? Because you're not quite there. You're trying to fake your way there. And I find when you're in that situation, so I often wonder when we talk about the needing mastery for flow, if some of it is just literally like the confidence that dials back the ego and gets the prefrontal cortex out of the way.
No, you're exactly right. It's the fake it till you make it syndrome, right? It's the affirmations, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire. And then you look in the mirror in your studio and you're like, no, this isn't adding up, right? And so there needs to be some correlation of reality to where something is actually tangible, that it's real, that you can actually believe it's happening, right? And so that was a big thing for me, getting out of my own way, getting the ego out of the way, and just getting into the actual activity is difficult. But reorganizing my day, understanding when you can access flow, when are the better times to access flow, has really kind of taken my productivity over the last, call it 6 months, specifically during COVID, to the next level.
That's interesting, Bret.
The voodoo works.
I like it when
the voodoo works.
One of our t-shirts. Andrew, I want to just ask you generally about this phenomenon. I know, Andrew, you're friends with lots of athletes, and you're in these worlds and within peak performance. Do you see this phenomenon a lot, where you take an elite performer from one field and they are able to transition to another field and completely crush it and dominate in that field? And kind of what is underlying that, do you think?
Yeah, it's rare in science, because people in science is one of those careers. I was told the day I got my lab, I was told 3 things, all by very prominent scientists. One of them said, "Congratulations, welcome to schizophrenia," because suddenly I'm managing people, I'm managing budgets, you're doing tons of things that you weren't really trained to do. So you get just thrown into the deep end of the pool of running what is essentially a small business. So in science, it's really sink or swim. And occasionally you'll come across a scientist who does something else really well, like a couple other things maybe, but usually no, especially for people who are just trying to manage a scientific career and a family. That's usually just a lot, more than enough. People that have changed careers, what you find, I think, is that they're very good at observing, and they are comfortable going slow at first. So they might have that ferocious tone underneath the surface, right, that Bret was talking about, but they're very observant. And I think learning to be an observer of your field, whatever field that is, and really learning the culture is essential. Whether or not you agree with the culture or not, all cultures and career cultures have issues. Just really being a good observer, because they're going to be a certain set of basic skills you need to learn, but you got to throw yourself in. And without going into a lot of detail about it, when I was a kid, I got very involved in like skateboard culture. I was always listening and watching for how was it done? I wasn't trying to mimic it, but I just like, what is the industry like? What are the dynamics? What are the amateurs and pros? When I got into science, I always looked at people who were one step ahead of where I wanted to be. And it was sort of like, as an assistant professor, I always tried to behave a little bit like a tenured professor. As a tenured professor, I'm trying to behave a little bit like somebody who's been in the field for 10 more years than I have, while still taking care of the duties you need to do. So you should always be looking up a couple rungs while also focusing on the rungs you're trying to climb on the ladder, because you don't want to ever land in a culture you don't understand. And so the best way to do this, to make it practical, is to ask a lot of questions. And you don't want to be careerist. I think the people that are really good at moving from one career to another, they don't have this careerist, what I like to pick on the pre-meds, no pre-med mentality. Pre-med mentality means I don't care what the answer is, just tell me what I need to know so I can move forward and just get the A in whatever field, so I can just perform well. You want to have a very curious, thoughtful nature about the field you're in. Learn everything you can about the field you're in, but that doesn't mean you have to do everything. So last example would be like right now, Stephen was teasing me, I'm not completing, but I'm working on a book. I'm learning about the publishing world, right? I'm learning about who does what. Stephen will tell you, I'll call him sometimes. I just want to learn. Just inform me about the world I'm in. I don't see myself as an editor someday, but I want to know, what do they really do? Like, what's the mindset of the editor, so I can meet those demands better. So I think people that do well to take expertise in one area and translate it to another, they're looking for the human universals that are present in every endeavor, and they're really trying to master their understanding in the field, but they are very focused in what they do. They don't try and play all those roles, but you really need to understand all those roles. And so be a student and really fall in love with being a student of your craft. I think that's really that's what they all do. They fall in love with the study of whatever new endeavor they're in. And it's a lot of fun that way too, because you only have to do a few things, but you really need to learn the context that you are in.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.